This is Amanda Edwards, and I'd like to welcome you to the Edwards Empowerment Talks. This podcast provides a platform to empower individuals and the community by showcasing stories of resilient people who have refused to let life's challenges prevent them from achieving their dreams. The Edwards Empowerment Talks will also highlight the work being done in the community that will help to positively shift the trajectory of this nation. Through stories of adversity, perseverance, drive, struggle, and success, the podcast will empower others to believe in their dreams and pursue those dreams despite whatever challenges may come their way. It is also a vehicle to equip the community with the tools necessary to be the change they want to see. I welcome you to tune in. You don't want to miss this. Hi, welcome to the next episode of the Edwards Empowerment Talks. I am so thrilled by our guest today because she happens to be someone who inspires people for a living. That is Denise Hamilton. She runs WatchHerWork, but you've probably also seen her as she has been a public speaker for years, an author, and also, of course, someone who motivates and inspires others. So I want to welcome Denise to the show today. Denise, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
And, I'm going to have to embarrass you before we get started because I was just looking at all of your background and the way you blend the colors that you wear. And, we've been working on some projects together, so I've seen you more often in this space. And I must say, you have something about you that is Oprah-esque in terms of all the super polished, beautiful color coordination that you've got going on with that background and that yellow top. And so I'm teasing you, but I'm not. I absolutely love the background, and you do this right. It's polished.
I received all of it. Thank you.
So, I have a funny story to tell before I get started. And one time I had the pleasure of being in the audience at the Oprah Winfrey Show. Mm-hmm. And at that show, one of the things I didn't know before I became an audience member is that they do all sorts of like color coordination among the audience. You ever looked at the audience and you would see how perfect it looked, and everybody was kind of perfectly coiffed and everything blended in terms of colors and rose tones. And there's vision. So they literally like have a whole situation going where they're like, okay, I need some blush tones over there. So anyway, I say all that to say you've done that very well. So Denise, you and I've had a chance to get to know each other in so many different ways, but I would love for the audience to learn more about your story before you became a motivational speaker, an author, an entrepreneur, a boss, all of the things that many people can use to describe you. Can you share a little bit about who Denise was when she was growing up, and a little bit about your background, and when did you know who Denise was going to become?
That's such a great question. I love that question. Well, as a diversity and inclusion strategist and consultant and speaker, my job is to make sure that people feel included, to feel like they belong, to feel like they fit. And I think the first place I got to process that and think about that was when we moved to the United States from Jamaica. Okay. I was born in Jamaica and moved here as a small child. And I remember going to school with my heavy Jamaican accent and the kids fighting me and bullying me and teasing me about my accent. And I would fight every day.
Not Denise.
Denise, y'all, Denise.
Denise was scrappy.
Scrappy. So, I'm from Brooklyn, son. And I realized, like, there's got to be a better way. I've got to connect with these people. I've got to help these kids to understand I'm just like them. Mm-hmm. And I figured out that transition of how to move from using fists to using words, how to connect to people, how to build relationships, how people are afraid of what they don't understand. And it's very powerful to have these lessons and these messages when you're so young, because I
Yeah.
took that throughout my entire life. I've always been the first or the only. I've
Mm.
always been a minority in the group, and not just like obviously I went to a predominantly white college, but I also went to a predominantly Asian high school, and I
So
went to a
tell me about that.
predominantly.
So you got to high school, and at this point you were still living in New York, correct?
Yes, yeah, yeah. I
Okay.
went to Stuyvesant High School, which is a school for the gifted, a public school for the gifted. At the time that I went, it was the number one high school in the country,
Oh wow.
and it was predominantly Asian and white,
Okay.
and so I had to navigate that environment, right?
Okay.
So and like for most people can't tell somebody who's Korean from somebody who's Japanese from somebody who's Chinese, but I can because I was exposed to that at really critical points in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so, really understanding that there is not, even in kind of the American thought process, like black and white,
Mm-hmm.
there's all kinds of people. There's all kinds of people with all kinds of perspectives. They're not monolithic. They don't all think the same. And everybody wants to be seen, heard, and respected. And so that's really been a theme throughout my entire life. As a matter of fact, I directed the gospel choir when I was in high school, and I took us and we won the citywide championship
So it's also
with a
Denise
whole
the
group of
singer?
Asian kids, huh?
Wait a minute. So is it also Denise the singer?
Well, little trivia, I did used to sing backup for El Debarge.
No,
So
you
yes,
didn't. Oh, how did I not know that?
did you not?
So
Yes.
I'm an El Debarge and Switch fan. Did you know
Oh
that?
well, see, yep, I was in the building. I was there. Now everybody's doing the math. How old is she? Yeah, she's
To
old.
both of us, because I'm over here talking about Switch.
Yep. Yes, I've done like the Star Spangled Banner at the Miami Heat games and at the Astros games, and yeah. Singer. So
Oh wow.
and even that, right? Like the language of people from all different educational backgrounds, like that. Your music industry, nobody is allowed in because of their pedigree. You got to be able to sing, you
So wait a
know.
minute. So you thought you were going to be Denise the singer growing up. So when you got to high
I
school, is
don't know.
that what you thought that was going to be your
No,
career path?
no, it was really opportunistic. Elle came to visit our college. He heard me sing. It was literally like a discovery story. He flew me out to LA to sing backup for him. So I did the Arsenio Hall show. I did the whole thing. I know you're like, who is Denise Hamilton?
Yes, I'm really like I feel like I didn't adequately research or what. Like I don't normally get this stumped in my interviews. Like of course I
You're
learn
caught
more
all
things that I
off
didn't know about
guard.
the person, but I generally start off with a general framework of who they are, you know. And what I'm really realizing is that I don't know.
Uh, I mean, I'm like, I always say yes.
Okay.
That is the theme in my life. I will give everything a try. I'm game. I'm willing to take the leap. I'm willing to give something a chance. And that was an incredible experience. But it was in the middle of my college education, and I just wanted to go back to school and just finish. And that's what I did. And
What were your parents saying at the time? So you had graduated from your high school and you'd gone off to college. Where were you in college? Because you said you went to a majority white college, correct?
Abilene Christian University in Abilene, Texas. Talk
So
about
how did you get? So that's your first entree to Texas?
Well, I went to a junior college, Southwestern Christian College, which
Hmm.
was a predominantly Black Church of Christ school,
Okay.
and then I moved to a predominantly white Church of Christ school.
So
So the
Southwest was your first.
Southwestern,
Southwestern was your first time in Texas, or
yes,
had you moved down already?
first
So what
time.
was that transition like?
It was crazy
Okay.
because it's the biggest culture shock, right? Like you can't. It's like, is this real? Is this how we really like? It just was totally different. And I'll tell you though, and I learned this more in Abilene when I moved to Abilene Christian. Um, I had this idea that people from New York, where I was from, were
Hmm.
so cosmopolitan and so hip and so cultured. And then I got to Texas and I was talking to people and they had been to Rome and Prague and China. And I was like, wait a minute. Oh, then I discovered the concept of discretionary income. And then when you live in a place with a low cost of living, how that creates all kinds of opportunities for you. So that was a deep connection point for me in Texas.
Yes.
And just getting to know like all different kinds of people, right? And learning how to navigate sometimes difficult, I won't lie, sometimes difficult situations, but learning how to be what I call triculturally socialized, being able to navigate any room and any space and any environment, to come in and still feel assured about who you are and what you bring to the table.
Now, your parents, and when, because you are the child of immigrants, yes?
Yes.
And so, was that instilled in you that you should try to assimilate in American culture? What was kind of the upbringing that you had with regard to identity and how your immigrant roots would impact the way you saw things or the way your frame of reference was?
I would have to say just the opposite,
Okay.
because we lived in a Jamaican neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
All my mother's friends were Jamaican. Like it was a very insular community.
Okay.
I was the one that left,
Okay.
right? And so I think it was just kind of like native within me of
Mm-hmm.
just like I want to see everything. I want to see everything there is to see.
Got
I
it.
want to see it all.
And you wanted to see
And so
Texas.
I want to see all of it. Well, I've now lived in New York, LA, Miami, and now live in Houston.
There
So
you go.
yeah, I've kind of hit all the coasts. Every, every coast.
But ended up on the Gulf Coast. So, okay, so you get to college,
Mhm.
you transfer, then you think you're going to be singing with El Debarge forever. Then you say, maybe not forever.
I said I
So,
would try it. I was like, I'll
okay.
try it. Like this is exciting. And even that, right? I like it's such an interesting singing is a really interesting gift to have,
Yeah.
because it's the kind of gift that other people covet,
Yeah.
right? Like everybody wishes they could sing. And so
Some
it's
of us
really
think we can sing anyway.
but just should not ever
you
sing.
Yeah,
Um,
if I'm in a karaoke bar, I mean, I'm pretty good at karaoke, so
that counts.
that counts.
I'll
It
give you
counts.
that point. That counts. But I always wanted to be known for my brain.
Okay.
I didn't really like the idea that you were more valuable because you could sing. I kind of see all gifts as the same. We just
Hmm.
have different gifts.
It's kind of like
Um,
with people who, they're trying to figure out academic route or sports, and still, very different talents that you can have. And in your case, it was your voice.
yeah. And it's you can have both gifts and you
Yeah.
get to choose. Other people don't get to choose for you.
Right.
So there are definitely people that were like, I can't believe you came back from LA to go to college. And I'm like, I wanted to go to college. I wanted to finish my cooking of my brain.
Hmm.
And I never regret that decision. I don't look back at all. To
Yeah.
me, it's an interesting business, but I had my time in it,
Okay.
right? And so finished school, moved to moved back to New York,
Okay.
and I good grief. So I
So
was
what
working.
was your major when you finished school?
So my bachelor's is in social work, and my
Hmm.
master's degree is in communication.
So what did you
So
think you were going to do?
rhetorical criticism. I thought I would be. I probably thought I was going to be a teacher,
Okay.
a professor in a college somewhere, and the restrictiveness of that environment didn't really speak to me.
Okay.
And also, I kind of felt like I said, I always say yes, right? And I feel like I'm young. I'm like, this is the time to kind of do and try and experience. So when I got to New York, I did TV and film production.
Okay.
So in front of the camera and behind the camera. So did a lot of commercials, music videos, that kind of a thing. You're going to be like, who is Denise Hamilton? But did a brief stint as a plus size model. I just kind of tried everything,
So
right?
modeling, singing, Video
I
directing.
should have given you the cheat sheet. Well,
Yeah,
production staff.
production.
And so learned so many lessons about like dealing with people, all different skills and capabilities and pressure cooker environments and
Yeah.
so many great lessons. And so the Rick story is really going to freak you out. So from my experience working in production,
Okay.
that's how I got to AOL.
Okay.
Somebody suggested me for a role at AOL. And at this time, AOL was sold through cable. It was sold through Time
Mm-hmm.
Warner Cable, and so I was hired to be in sales to kind of basically protect the messaging and market AOL to the Time Warner Cable reps.
Mm-hmm.
So I go down. AOL had a private jet that went between New York and Dulles, Virginia,
Okay.
and I went down by private jet to the orientation, new employee orientation. So I do my orientation. I've already picked out my new car because I got this sexy new job. And by the time my plane lands, I have an email that says, we decided to go in a different direction. Could you come back to Dulles? We want to talk to you about something. And I was like, did I already lose this good job? I've worked here 2 days. So I
Yeah.
get back to the plane. I come back to Dulles, and I'll never forget it. It's like five guys in a room, and they call me in, and then literally it was like a movie. It was like me sitting in one chair, and it's five of them, and they said, "Listen, we're going in a different direction. We decided we have a better way that we want to market this, and we think you can be instrumental. We are going to move to the top 20 DMAs, the top 20 markets in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a list of 20 cities. Pick the one you want." Literally, I thought I was being punked. Like I thought it was
Yeah.
like a joke. I was like, pick the one I want. I worked here for 2 days. I don't know any of you. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Last week I was working in music videos. I don't even know what you're talking about. And so it was so crazy. Let me tell you how like opportunity is so crazy. So remember, I had grown up in New York,
Mm-hmm.
right? I had been a backup singer in LA,
For
and
Elder
I
Bars.
had lived in my roommate, college roommate Tracy Ferguson, had grown up in Houston, and I had gone home with her throughout my college time, so I was very familiar with Houston. So
Got it.
New York, LA, Houston, the only three cities on the list that I was familiar with.
Okay.
All of those cities were gone.
Okay.
Every single other city was available, but the three cities I had some connection to. Go figure. So I went down the list, and in my mind, I'm like, what are they talking about? Like, move to another city to run some for that. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But I said, just play along. Just keep saying yes. So I went down the list, and it was like Denver, Chicago. It was like cold, 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 Miami. And I said, well, if I was going to do this, I would do Miami. And they said, well, Miami's going to go really fast. So you have to let us know as soon as possible. I got on the plane. When the plane touched down in New York, I called them again. I said, I'll take Miami. And me and my daughter were in Miami 3 weeks later, running marketing and promotions for AOL for South Florida.
Wow. And
Crazy.
so your philosophy, so let's pause here. So your philosophy up until that point had just been to say yes.
Yeah.
Would you say that's the case? Or in that journey, were you ever faced with any significant rejection or anything that caused you to reflect? I know you took a number of different pivots from music to then marketing in concert with Time Warner and just kind of how did you keep that energy and opportunity flowing toward you?
I kind of see it. I don't really see work as like, I've never been the person that had like this career plan or
Yeah.
this career track. I see it as here's this bucket of gifts that I
Okay.
have. And my job is to find the places that can best utilize my gifts. So taking that approach, leading with that
So leading
has
with your
led.
talents.
Yeah, so to other people it feels like I've been hopping,
Yeah.
but for me it feels like it's all the same job.
Yeah.
It's all
It's Denise.
it's all Denise. It's speaking well, it's presenting ideas, it's being creative. it's making things happen. It's being catalytic. Like there's a thread that runs through every single job I've ever had.
Yeah.
And so to me, I think that one thing that growing up extremely low income,
Mm-hmm.
the biggest thing you're kind of cheated out of is options,
Mm.
right? I think when you're growing up in a poor neighborhood with substandard schools, like you learn you can be a doctor, a teacher, a lawyer, a nurse, a fireman. Like there's like
There's
this really
10, a list
finite,
of
yeah,
10
there's like this
things.
finite bucket of jobs you can have. So
Yeah.
for me, I really look at the world like a buffet, like, ooh, I can do that. Ooh, I could do that. Like, and I've always kind of taken that approach to it of just like, I can be anything I want to be. And moreover, at the ripe old age of 50, I have seen the world change so many times. There
Yeah.
are so many jobs that are present today that literally were not present 10 years ago,
I
let
mean,
alone 30 years ago.
I just not to date myself, but I just remember, it was this regular activity in my household to, oh, who's going to go to Blockbuster on Friday to go pick up, whatever we're going to be renting this weekend or whatever. And it's like, what is, you ask like,
Blockbuster.
people now and they're like, yeah, remember Blockbuster? And they're like, what's that?
Just that.
What's that?
Exactly. The world changes so fast. So I just don't, I'm not tethered that way. I
Yeah.
do what I want to do. And as the new tools become available, I like adapt and employ those new tools.
So let me ask this question because I think what innate in your ability to follow your skills and your talents and your strengths is a confidence, right? Like that you can do it
Mhm.
even if it's not a linear pathway. So talk a little bit about where your confidence came from. Were you always that confident even growing up? Where was it cultivated? Were there times where that confidence was tested and perhaps dented or diminished? And I'd be curious about that because I think, you know, regardless, I think that's such a huge component of whether or not someone can be successful, however you define success, is based on your thought about your ability to accomplish certain things. And so if you think you can't do it, then you won't go try out for the team.
That's it.
And you obviously have not only thought you could do many different things, but you thought you could do them in ways that were very bold. And so I'd be curious to hear over your span of time in your career and just as growing up, where did the confidence come from? How did you sustain it? What happened? Was there a time when it was where it faltered?
You know, that I do attribute to immigrant background,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, my mother moved to the United States. She moved to New York in the middle of January. I
Oh,
think it was -5 outside. And here is this tropical creature that has been dropped into the middle of a frozen tundra. And she made it. She figured it
yeah,
out. She made it happen. She made it work,
yeah,
and I think that that experience of watching her hustle, watching her bake wedding cakes and do people's hair and anything that she could do to make extra money. She was a telephone operator,
mm-hmm.
but do anything in her power so that she could have her bite at the American dream. Um, how dare I do anything less than that?
So
That literally,
the hustle came in because you saw mom hustling and
and
working
I
hard.
think the expectation that if you work hard, you will get a reward,
Yeah,
right? Like that those two things come together. And if this doesn't work, you just find something else that works.
yeah, the
I think
resilience.
one
Mm-hmm.
of the biggest gifts that my mother gave me is I am completely divorced from the outcome in a way
Say
that
that again. How
I
is
am
that? Tell me
I
about that.
am divorced. Yeah, I really work hard to divorce myself from the outcome. My job is to do my best, right? That's all I can
So
do.
you always were divorced from the outcome, or Is this something you acquired the ability to do over time? Because I am the opposite, so I really would like to
Like you're
hear.
like a
I'm
dog.
listening. I'm a student right now, so please explain this to me. Okay,
I
so
I
tell me
think
about that.
that yeah, I think that one thing I figured out, and I actually count this as a blessing, going to a very, very like poor substandard school
Mm-hmm.
in my so the hood school up until middle school, but then testing into Stuyvesant.
Mm-hmm.
I really got to see there's so many lessons that I got from that experience. First, the idea of equity,
Mm-hmm.
the deep idea that, talent is equally distributed. It's
Mm-hmm.
opportunity that's not,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Say that
And
one more
so
time.
talent is equally distributed. It's
Mm-hmm.
opportunity that's not,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so this idea that, you know, if you get a chance to bite at the apple, you better take a big, juicy, healthy bite
Yeah.
because there's so many people who are not getting a chance to bite at that apple.
Yeah.
So I also believe that we all kind of approach the world with a limited understanding of sorts,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like that doctor, teacher, lawyer thing,
Yeah.
right? We with this limited understanding of you can only do so many things, and I probably figured out very early in my life that ooh, my list is short. There's some other stuff on the list that I don't have on my list, and I need to stay open to what is possible
Yeah.
because if I use my limited exposure to determine what I can be and what I can do, I may cheat myself out of an opportunity. Like that AOL job. There's no universe that I would have applied to be head of marketing for AOL for South Florida. There,
Right.
like I would have never applied for that job,
Right.
right? So if I use my limited sense of what's possible for me as the barometer, then I would have not, those opportunities would have never come in. Same with singing backup with L. Really?
Listen
If
at
I
her
had,
with
he came to
L.
me. He came to me. Like I didn't go, I'm still, I have this horrible tendril. I didn't go, I said, same with L. I didn't go like, I want to go to LA and be a star. He came to me, right? So I've always had this belief that you have to leave the door a little cracked open
Yeah.
because there may be something in the that's out of your periphery that
Yeah.
can rock your entire world.
So let me
So
ask
do
this. Do you
that.
ever have challenges resulting from the fact that you don't close the door all the way? And so do you find yourself ever like going in a circle
No,
sometimes or no? Okay.
no, no, because it's not like I'm not flighty,
Yeah.
right? Like if I'm doing something, I'm doing
You're
something.
doing it.
I just leave, like I leave space and room for God to give the increase.
Mm-hmm.
It's not all in my head, it's not all in my plan. I just give space and room that there may be something that I don't see in this situation or I don't have all the handle on. And I have had that validated so many different times in my life where I've gotten an incredible opportunity
Mm-hmm.
um, that I had no idea was coming. That I would
Yeah.
have, if you had asked me 3 months ago, hey, do you think this would happen? I'd been like, how is that going to happen? I wouldn't have had any idea. So I really look at it as it's my job to show up fully me, fully embracing, honing, developing my gifts, harnessing my strengths, doing the best I can in whatever I touch or whether I'm working on, but then to be open to what that translates into. And I think that's very different. There are a lot of people who are very driven and focused. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, then I'm going to do that. And that's not how I live my life. And so there's no judgment there, but it's just, it's different. And it means that I've gotten a chance to have all of these like deep, rich experiences. And that informs my work today because when I go into a room, there really isn't anyone that is talking about something that I don't have at least a cursory understanding of, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
a
You're like, oh yeah, I
cursory,
remember when I was doing blah
yeah,
blah
right. I
blah.
have some connection or some anchor or some whatever. And I think so few people have that, the ability to truly empathize and connect with people that are really different from them because they don't take those risks and they don't step out of the
Comfort zone.
guardrails,
Yeah.
you know?
So you were in Miami
Yeah.
and you said, I'm leaving Miami. Tell me about how you
Yeah.
made your transition
So
away.
AOL started to contract and they
Mm-hmm.
wanted everybody to come back to Dulles. And at that point, I had sworn an oath that I would never be cold again.
We all
So
do it, right? When we get to the
I was
South, they're just
like,
like, oh, I
oh,
don't have to be
but
cold again.
I can't do it. I can't do it. And, my college roommate, Tracy Ferguson, called me. Like, we were talking about it, and we had always been talking about this idea for a magazine.
Yes.
And she was like, just come to Texas and let's just launch it. And we did. Okay, I came to Texas and we launched Jones Magazine.
And so,
Uh,
what made you think that you could do that? You just figured you'd figure it out.
I just think, like, if you're smart,
Mm-hmm.
if you're smart, if you're like, there are very few things you can't figure out if you apply your full energy to figuring them out.
Yeah.
It's not the figuring out that's the problem. It's managing the fear,
Yeah.
right? And the truth of it is, like, I think and this is the encouragement I always give to young people that I mentor. It's, be such a master of your craft.
Mm-hmm.
Understand your gifts, hone them to razor sharp level,
Okay.
and then you can do whatever you want to do. Because
Mm-hmm.
if the magazine had totally flopped, I just would have got another job,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I lost, or I wanted to say, like, you're free. Like, there's no I don't know. There's no limit to what you can do, and there's no challenge of doing sequential creative projects if you're a creative person.
Right.
So yeah. So I guess I don't really think of things in terms of downside.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't felt a downside.
Yeah,
Like, it's
because you
just,
see
you
them
just
as
do
growth
you do the
possibilities.
next project, you do the next thing that stimulates you and makes you excited and makes you interested. And so that's what you do.
And so you started Jones Magazine, and then what happened next? And tell me what were some of those challenges that you experienced, and what did you learn from that?
Oh, so much. I mean, we printed our first run in China, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna tell you what, I could hardly sleep when we wired that money, and we were like, are these people gonna bring our books? Is this really gonna happen? Like, we were just like, the whole time we were just completely freaked out. You have to trust people. You have to figure out and do your due diligence and find people that you can create with and work with. And learning is hard. Putting yourself in new situations is hard, but you're capable. And it was good that we had each other to always remind each other, like, boy, we are really smart. We are really figuring this out. Like, we were each other's hype man. Um, 'Cause you need that, right? And that's why I always when I speak to large audiences now, one of the things I really always stress is, be a creator, not a critic. We
Oh, I
are
love that. Say that
be,
one more time.
be a creator, not a critic. We are
Yes.
overrun with critics. We are overrun with people that tell you what can't work, how it's not going to go, how it's going to fail. And I don't need that. Like, you need people that are critical, like, they're challenging you and they're giving you constructive criticism to help you be better and sharper and more amazing. But you need to know the difference between creators and critics,
Yeah.
because they will dampen your dreams. You just don't need people that they think it's their job to tell you what you can't do.
So tell me about that inner circle conversation, because that's often as you rise and you rise and you go along in your career, the inner circle question always comes up because it's part of what informs your perspective, and those are the voices that you're hearing consistently. And so what is your rule of thumb, and what advice do you have for others as it relates to who should be in your inner circle? What does that even look like in your experience? What has that looked like? How has that changed over time? You don't have to name names, but my point is, for those who are trying to figure that out, and that's a constant or continuous dilemma, if you will, in terms of
Mhm.
figuring it out. Should you be expanding that circle or contracting it? So I'm curious to hear what your personal rule of thumb is.
My personal rule of thumb is, it should be on a bit of a rotation.
Okay.
I think that you need people from different races, different genders, different age groups. You need somebody to say, you can do more.
Yeah.
You can push harder, right? I love Alice Walker's book. It was based on an African proverb, like you never step in the same river twice.
Hmm.
Never, you have to allow the world to change,
Mm-hmm.
and you can have friends that keep you locked in a world that no longer exists, right? And it can be a grievance exchange. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not interested in that. I'm looking for people who are purveyors of hope,
Mm-hmm.
right? Who are challenging me for what's next, who tell me things that I'm like, what? When they say you could do XYZ, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But you need people that plant that seed in the back of your head that say, I think you could do that.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a cheerleader,
Yeah.
and I think too often um, we become cages for the people that we love instead of trampolines. I want to be a trampoline.
Got
I
all
want
kind of nuggets over here. One more time. We become cages instead of trampolines.
Yeah, too often we're cages. We're keeping people locked instead of being trampolines where people can jump on us and we can be a lift to
Yeah.
take them into the next possibility of their lives, right?
Yeah.
And so I think I'm always on the hunt. I'm maxed out on LinkedIn. I'm maxed out on Facebook. I could live the rest of my life and not have one more friend. At this point in my life, I'm looking strictly for people to drive the getaway car. I'm looking for people I can call from jail,
Yeah.
right?
I
Like
love it.
deeper relationships,
Mm-hmm.
deeper people that you can really count on, that you could call when there's a storm,
Yeah.
right? Like you can rely on. And I think that the cultivation of that takes time, takes commitment. It's as important as your marital relationship or your relationship with your children.
Mm-hmm.
Because, those are the voices in your head that tell you if you can or you can't do it. So I'm pretty intense about who those people are and what role they play and where I engage with them. And there are people that are going to be different. They're going to have different expertise on
Yeah.
different topics.
So one person you ask for advice about career, the next person you ask for advice about something different.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so sometimes I've got some people I think of my inner circle on technology because I'm old.
You're
And I'm like,
like, so
what
what's
are we
this
supposed to do
Instagram
with
thing? What
what are we
Insta
supposed to do with
story?
this? Right, like what now? Like, and they help to keep me fresh and connected. And then I've got some friends in their 70s and 80s because I want that wisdom, that deep sage. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've seen this 50 times. Let me tell you how I should go, baby. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm desperate for that as well. So I think it's just teaching yourself to see genius in whatever shape or form it appears,
Yeah.
and being open and inclusive to that end, I think is super important.
Yeah, those are great. See, I knew I was gonna get some good nuggets out of you as always, but now we get to record them. So so then, okay, Jones Magazine. Tell me about how that venture ended, and then how you moved on to become now Denise Hamilton, the author, Denise Hamilton, the business owner, Denise Hamilton, the motivational speaker. Tell me a little bit about how that transition worked for you in Houston.
So I was thrilled to support Tracy as she built Jones. Like this was her baby. She could talk about lipstick all day. She still can, by the way. And like it got to a certain point, and I was like, I really want to go back to corporate. I really want to go back and do work more like the work I had done at AOL. And through a series of conversations, ultimately I ended up in commercial real estate. And you're like, commercial real estate? How did you get to commercial real estate? So at the time, commercial real estate was 0.5% any ethnic minority.
Okay.
So the office that I worked at had hired their first Black secretary three years before I got there.
Wow.
And I love the challenge of it. I
Yeah.
love the idea of going into a space where nobody looked like me, where I was
Mm-hmm.
going to be, again, another first, another only.
Mm-hmm.
And so jumped into commercial real estate, did that for a while, lots of crazy stories and lessons that came out of that experience, as you can imagine. And then was recruited from there to work for Tony Chase, who is a successful entrepreneur in the Houston area and
Mhm.
ran his commercial real estate company.
Mhm.
And he was actually really supportive and encouraging of me to start my own business because I had that's in that space of time between in working in commercial real estate in an industry that was so predominantly white male.
Mhm.
I learned so many lessons. That's where the idea for Watch Her Work was born.
Now tell me about Watch Her Work and the idea behind it and what it was like building that business.
So when you are the first or only in an
Mhm.
environment, you become kind of a target for mentees.
Okay.
Everybody, can I take you to lunch? Can I pick your brain? I know you have the same problem. You could literally have lunch 10 times a day, couldn't you? Like everybody,
Listen, sometimes you
listen,
do, you know.
exactly. And I
Sometimes you
just was
do.
like, this is crazy. It's kind of like the group of people that are at the tip of the spear fighting for equality were now in charge of equality,
Mhm.
right? Because all of these women behind us were like, hey, 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 and it wasn't sustainable. And I would talk to my peers and they would say, I don't even get to see my own kids. That's how hard I'm working. And
Mhm.
now like it's this weird expectation that I'm going to bring forth the next generation. And it just was unreasonable. And I was like, there's got to be a way to use technology to solve this problem.
Yeah.
And so me being not a technology person, we bought a camera, we talked to a few people, and we started filming. We just started filming successful executives, entrepreneurs, thought leaders. And now we have a library of over 7,000 videos. We're always collecting new footage, and it's just a library of advice. Everything from how do you ask for a raise? How do you tell your boss you're pregnant? What do you do if a client hits on you? How do you handle going through a divorce when you're
Mhm.
at work? Just all of these issues that are just about women working. And I just set out to kind of curate female brilliance. And I wanted to democratize access,
Yeah.
because the sparkly girl with the perfect teeth, she's probably going to get a mentor.
Yeah.
But for women, we can't afford for one person to not have access to this information. We all need to move forward as profoundly as possible. So I wanted to scale mentorship and
Mhm.
democratize access, and that's what we've done.
And so, did you have a clear understanding or vision in the beginning, or was it just kind of like organic? Oh, we're getting some good data here, or we're getting some good advice. Let's put this together, and
Yeah,
then eventually you got to the polished. I'm democratizing access, and all of the pieces that you now are able to deliver and package. But was it organic in terms of just trying to collect this information?
it was organic because I just let people tell me what they needed.
Mm-hmm.
What did you want to hear about and what did you want to see? I just tried to listen. I think a good leader listens, and it's responsive to what people are asking for. And I think that again, remember my one of my rules is I divorce myself from the outcome. I was like, if
Yeah.
this is great, it's great, and if it's not, and people don't want it, they won't want it. But
Yeah.
let's just build it and let's just see what it can become. And so last year, I guess 2019, we took our first big group on a retreat to Bali, which was amazing. So we do events and meetings and trainings all throughout the year, but that Bali trip was right, and we hope that we'll go back in 2022. Um, and it was really funny because we took this group of Type A, high strung women, and I did not tell them where we were staying, and I did not tell them what the itinerary was. I'm seeing your face
And they
like,
went.
and
They
they
went.
went. They trusted me. They trusted me. I was like, trust me. And it was so incredible. And what was incredible about it was wonder. We have lost wonder. We have lost surprise. As soon as somebody tells you what restaurant you're going to, everybody gets online and reads all the
You
reviews.
already know what you're eating.
Exactly. And it's like, let's just go into a space and let's just have some wonder and some surprise. So I would tell them, tomorrow I'll be in the lobby at 7 o'clock and have on hiking boots and a bathing suit. Like, and
And
they'll be
so they were
like,
like,
what?
okay.
And we would hike to a waterfall, or we would go to the monkey forest and play with the monkeys, or we would just do every day was something different and exciting, and they had no idea. So the first day they got there, everybody was stressed out. By the end of the second day, they were like, I'm rolling, we're
Yeah,
good.
whatever you say, boss. We're following you. So tell me, okay, so Watch Her Work has evolved. Then where did the public speaking come from? Where did the writing come from? And how did you say, because in these other periods of your life, although you've done very different things, you began to do a lot of different things all at once in this Denise Hamilton brand. So tell me
Yeah,
how you moved from this is a job I have, or I'm running a magazine, or I'm doing one particular thing, to I am building a brand, and that involves many pieces to the puzzle.
so I was super uncomfortable with being out front.
Okay.
I just wanted to be behind the scenes. I wanted to put the videos out and share the information. And more every time I tried that, the clients were like, yeah, no, we want you. We want you to come and speak about what you've learned doing this exercise. We want you to come and speak about how we can better create inclusion in our environments. And I knew how they could do it because I'd been through it myself. I've been an executive for over 20 years, but then also I had spoken with all these amazing women and I knew what their pain points were and where the opportunities were. And so that those kind of multiple experiences, plus, we're going back to a bachelor's degree in social work, understanding people and patience and inclusion, master's degree in communication, persuasion, how to talk to people, how to connect. It was kind of a natural, like, big cauldron
Mm-hmm.
of experiences plus training that led me, kind of positioned me perfectly to move into professional speaking. And speaking of that inner circle that you asked about earlier, it was Crystal Washington, another professional speaker, very successful Black woman, who pulled me to the side and said, sis, are these people paying you? Are they like, are
So
they
you
really?
were someplace speaking, and she saw you.
Yeah, she
Uh-huh.
knew that I was speaking. She knew that people were tapping me. And she was just super supportive. And she was like, wait, I need to step in here. And that's, again, a perfect example of, I had no idea.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I remember the first time Crystal said, tell them you're going to charge them $3,000. And I was like, girl, what? Nobody is going to pay me $3,000 to talk for 45 minutes. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So I got on the phone, I got my nerve up, and I said, okay, $3,000. And the person on the other end of the line was like, oh, for real? Great. She was like, it was a bargain. I was like, oh, got it. I need to listen to Crystal. And I just really started listening, of just like, this is how much you should charge, and this is what your website should look like. And just like, that's another great example of me not having that in my purview at
On the
all.
list of 10, public speaker, professional speaker was not on the list of 10 that you were handed.
Nowhere.
Yeah.
No, 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 nowhere near it. Didn't understand the industry, didn't understand what was possible. And I think that's it, right? Like, keep open. That, to your point about leaving that door open for
Yeah.
something to grow that you don't even see in your periphery right now. I definitely did that with professional speaking. And now I've spoken at BP, ExxonMobil, Salesforce, Heinz, GE, BHP, the CP, I've like all over the place. And and this is something I didn't even contemplate 5 years ago. So
Wow.
I think that that's just been the course of my life.
And
Like,
this, but it was someone who pulled you aside and said to you, because she had the experience, she
yeah,
knew to ask you the question, because she knew that you weren't necessarily uh, aware
right,
of what opportunity existed.
right. And that's why I think in my work today and in my speaking today, I really challenge women specifically. Tell your story. Say what your path was. Say what you're working on,
Yeah.
because you never know if you can be a resource to someone else to help them accomplish their dreams. Your story may plant a seed in somebody. They're like, oh, wait, she did that? What? wait a minute, maybe I could do that. How do I do that?
Yeah.
So I'm big on women telling their stories and sharing their path and their journey. My hope, even in this conversation today, is that somebody sees, wait, there doesn't have to be a straight line to where you end up. No, there doesn't. Like you can try and you can taste and you can experiment and you can see where the world takes you, and you might end up someplace amazing,
Yeah.
right? And but we need to tell these stories, otherwise people think I've got to do it this way or it
You
doesn't
have to do it a particular way. And I love how you segue into that you encourage people to tell their stories and share what their journeys have been like, and you're doing that here. But then the one piece that you mentioned is also to talk about what you're working on presently. So I'd love to hear, what is Denise Hamilton up to, and then I'd like to transition us to what we are up to, because we're cooking up some plans as well. But what's going on else otherwise with you, Denise, especially since
know.
the pandemic and the like?
Yes. So my clients have been harassing me to do more product based items rather than just, obviously, they can hire me to come in and speak or hire me to come in and consult, and that's amazing. But they're also wanting something to do throughout the year. So I have a personal belief that inclusion is not an event. It should be normalized as a part of our everyday lives. And
Mm-hmm.
so we are standing up a new company called All Hands.
Okay.
And that company will provide micro training throughout the year for subscribing companies for their
Mm-hmm.
employees. So little things, it may be, should I say, Black or African American?
Mm-hmm.
What do the letters mean in LGBTQIA? Why
Oh
does
wow,
someone wear
yeah,
a burqa? What's a bindi? What
yeah.
does BIPOC mean? And where did that term come from? Like all of these things where people really get hung up and
Mm-hmm.
confused and unsure about how they want to handle things. We're just doing tiny little videos that can be sent out throughout the year so that it's not some big 6 hour fire hose training. It's just a little bit everyday learning about your fellow man. And so I'm super excited about it. And we are hopefully launching in May. We hope to hit the streets in May.
All
But
hands,
all hands,
all
because
hands.
if you're going to change the world, it takes all hands on deck.
That's right. And let
That's
me
it.
ask this that's incredible. And the other thing I was going to ask you too, as it tied to the pandemic and racial unrest and injustice that has been witnessed by now the mainstream many times over, and has really ignited. I can't imagine, as somebody who, like you, are connected with lots of major corporations and do a lot in the DEI space, diversity, equity, and inclusion space, how many times your phone might have been blowing up during that time. And I'm assuming some of that is the inspiration behind All Hands, right?
Definitely. It was a
It was like,
busy.
don't call me, just look at the video.
You call me, you call me, you call me.
I'm teasing. I'm teasing.
But I mean, it was definitely a really challenging time. And I have to say, I'm super encouraged.
Yeah.
I have a specialty. I work with extremely conservative organizations, lots of legacy organizations like oil and gas and tech, where there really is not tons of diversity. And I can honestly say I've seen an opening up of people who are wanting to understand, wanting to change how we're working and how we work together. It really has lifted my heart up, and I share that as many times as I can, because I know people get discouraged. Will things ever change? Will we ever improve this? And I think that we will change and we will improve it, and we're going to do it one person at a time, one team at a time, one organization at a time. So keep your hope up and keep your energy up, and we just have to keep working towards change. All of us do.
Yeah, and I think that, there are opportunities that are rare in which you really do grab the attention of folk who are in positions to make change happen. It can't just be the choir singing to the choir. It has to be all hands. I'm not, no pun intended, I guess, all hands on deck. But it's true in terms of really actually whether it was somebody else's idea or not doesn't really matter so long as there's a commitment to a particular outcome. And I think in this instance, I think businesses really, you saw them issue statements. You saw everyone disavow racism. And I think now we're moving to the stage of, all right, so what did you do? And not what are you going to do, but what did you do? And I think having that accountability to have to answer that question and internally keeping that accountability present and the pressure there, but then externally, who do you do business with? Well, do you do business with companies that, didn't seem to do much in response to what, the shift that is rightly happening right now. So I don't know. I think it's a very interesting time to be starting a company like All Hands. And so I'm excited to cheer you on and be a trampoline instead of a cage. So, but you've been a trampoline to me in many ways, Denise. So I have to say thank you. Also because, running statewide for office was not easy. And I remember many times you encouraging me, you amplifying my voice and message. And I just want to thank you for doing that. And thank you for teaming up with me again. So you were one of my partners in crime, or I don't want to say partners in crime because that's not right. Partners in community. How about that?
There you go. There you
So
go.
you're one of my partners on a very exciting venture for me. So I started Be the Solution Community Empowerment Organization, my new 501c3 organization, in order to do a lot of the work I was doing as a council member before in terms of community empowerment. So we like to do programs and just carry out functions that help to equip people with the knowledge they need, encourage them, educate them, really empower them and engage them in a way where they then can be the solutions in their community, since that's why we're called Be the Solution. So my first event, my kickoff event, is going to be an evening of women's empowerment in honor of Women's History Month in March. We're hosting it on March 30th, and Denise is one of my collaborators. I'm so excited about that. She was my collaborator on this event back in 2019 when I did it the first time. And so I've just had so much fun working with you on it. And tell me what you're looking forward to the most about this year's event. We've got a bigger roster this time.
I love loving on women. This has been a really hard 12 months.
Oh, yes.
So many ups and downs, and I am always blown away at the resilience of these incredible women that are just holding their families down, that are working and taking care of kids and doing homeschooling and dealing with storms and these
crazy.
Are warriors. And I just am looking forward to having an evening of just celebrating and encouraging them. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I think so many times too, when you get to be surrounded by women who are excelling, or women who have both had triumphs and setbacks, and you can learn from them, it really can encourage you in whatever situation you are presently in to see beyond that. Sometimes it's a matter of just having an ability to see beyond the present moment that can keep you motivated to keep pushing. And when we thought about the theme this year and a women's renaissance being 2021, the year of the women's renaissance, really it's an opportunity to reset anything you had been thinking about creating, that new business venture, the new company you're starting, All Hands. I mean, whatever it is, seeing that need and then seizing it and saying yes to it. And yeah, it doesn't mean that just because you say yes or it's exciting that they're not setbacks, trials, and tribulations. We all have those, and whether we're walking in our purpose or not. So the question is, would you prefer to have your trials and tribulations as you walk in your purpose, or would you prefer to do that when you're doing somebody else's work and not walking in your purpose? And so I hope that it's inspiring to people.
Anyway.
Yeah, and I hope that it inspires people. And I know we have you, Denise, talking to some really inspirational speakers, Pastor Juanita Rasmus, and then of course Amanda Ducock of Social Mama. And so I know that's going to be a good conversation. I wanted to be in on that, but I can't be on all of them. So, but I know that's going to be a good one.
Yes, for sure, for sure. It's going to be an amazing night. So I just want you to come in, bring your pen and pad, and bring your troubles too, and put them right outside the door. Leave them there, and come on in the room, ready to receive and to be rejuvenated and to be encouraged, because we're going to empower you on that night.
Yes, and that's anywhere you are because it's a fully virtual event. So, make sure that you have an opportunity to tune in March 30th from 6 to 7:30. And if you haven't registered already, please go to my social media pages and do that. So I'm excited about this collaboration. And Denise, I've enjoyed our conversation. I feel like I've learned so much about you, Denise. These many lives that you've had. What wisdom? I mean, you've shared so many nuggets and gems and pearls of wisdom. Anything else you want to leave us with as we are, 2021 has been a little bit interesting, right? So I feel 2020 vibes in the beginning of 2021, and I'm going to need those 2020 vibes to go away. So for those who are like me, who have said, what happened to the new year? I got an insurrection happening at the Capitol, and then we got the Texas the winter storms and this, energy grid problem, and it's been a lot. So give us some encouragement. You're my motivational speaker today. So give us some encouragement about this fresh start and opportunity to live our best lives in this moment.
So stop holding your breath.
Okay.
I think that there's an energy that we have of like we're tying the knot at the end of the rope and holding on, that we're waiting for something else to happen. They were waiting for things to go back to normal. And I think I want to encourage everybody to make some decisions this week. Okay. Make some real decisions. Experts fail because they are experts in a world that no longer exists. So we need some pivoters. We need some reimagination. We need some big thinkers that aren't mourning the way things were, but they're ready to kind of imagine and co-create a new reality. And you have it in you to do it. So stop mourning the past. Let's look powerfully towards the future, and let's find some sister friends to help us get there.
I like that. So no, and don't be a critic. Be a creator. Right?
We are overrun with Stop being a creator. Stop being a critic. Be a creator. Please. We need you.
Well, I love that note, Denise. If somebody wants to learn more about you, where they can buy your books, where they can learn more about WatchHerWork, where you're speaking next, where can they go to find that information?
WatchHerWork.com. You'll find everything you need to find. They can also go to DeniseHamilton.co, that's exclusively for my speaking, but either one will get you to me. Okay. Just find me. I don't care where you call me. Just call me.
Well, you heard it here first. And Denise, I am so glad that I got you on the podcast. I've had so much fun today. And for those, again, who are out in the audience listening, you heard her pearls of wisdom. Really use this opportunity to create and to create a bold future for yourself. So that wraps up this episode of the Edwards Empowerment Talks. I look forward to you joining me next time.
I would like to extend a special thank you to the Texas Signal for its support of our podcast.